You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois, Sunday, April 9th, 2023, around 4 p.m. I apologize for the late start. I was programming on OBS, trying to get something to work till about 10 a.m. last night, went to sleep, completely forgot about everything, got woken up minutes before 3 p.m., pushed it back to 4 p.m., here we are. Today we're playing turn 15, despite what it said on at the screen when the stream started. This is turn 15 of The Case of the Blinded Birder, our Murders by Mail game. Let me check in with the chat. Seems like we've got most of our regulars here. I apologize if I inconvenienced anyone. Okay, actually the reply for today just came in the mail. So I have it here. Before I open it, let's recap from last week. Make sure I've got everything set up here properly. So we've basically solved our case of Rupert Albright, the murder of him. We know who murdered him, why, and how it was set up. Here was our last piece of the puzzle that seemed to be the one we were missing, about why they met there, why he was killed there. And here is the letter from Rupert Albright to Kathleen Carwood, our professor, leader of the dig, arranging to meet up for their latest blackmail handoff payment. And she obviously decided that she was not going to be in debt to him and pay him off for the whole time, so she killed him. And this makes clear that they're suspicious of each other. He says, I'll be... What does he say? Originally I thought I remembered him saying, I'll be waiting or something, but does he say watching? He actually says watching. So there you go. He was watching with binoculars to make sure she was alone. She was alone, except with a gun, and shot him right while he was watching her. So we've basically wrapped up our mystery. However, this is the last play-by-mail game we have, and we've decided we're going to take our time and wrap up every little side case in this town, and there appear to be a couple. We've got the vicar going off on side cases. And he was tracking down these mummified birds that were found in the newspaper. I could look at that in a second. But we went to a taxidermy shop, and he heard about these feathers of birds used to make fly lures. And he gave us the name of a fly fisherman who collected dead birds for that purpose. Name of Pape, who lived at B5. So that's where we've continued to send the vicar, where he can't do much harm, where he's not going to get hit over the head by one of the women. So he's on that side case. On our main case, one weird thing is, at the last turn, we went to the records department, and they gave us a whole bunch of leads related to our case. Doesn't feel like we need to know it, but related to Rupert Albright. But I say related to our case, but actually it's related to our new side case that we've taken on ourselves. So these side cases aren't official. We've just adopted them as side cases. And we're investigating the death of his wife, which seems a little bit suspicious. So this lead got us 4 leads related to his wife. We were told where he used to live before he got married, where his wife died at Middleshire Hospital, the doctor in charge of his wife's death, and then the family, that the wife's maiden family. And we're curious to find out whether they think her death was suspicious, whether the doctor thinks her death was suspicious, etc. We still have another, so we're investigating the bird side case. We're investigating the wife death side case. We have 2 more that we shouldn't forget. One is the RAF. There's an article about noise at the RAF disrupting stuff. We haven't even been there. It's quite an interesting looking place. So I think everyone wants to go there. And then does anyone remember what the fourth mini side case is? Let's see if anyone in the chat remembers what the fourth little mini side case is. And I'm going to actually write these down so I don't forget for next time. So we've got Albright's wife. We've got the box of birds. We've got the RAF. And what's the fourth one? The carpet lady, that's right. The carpet lady. When we traced down Albright's previous work, we found out that he made a great sale. He overcharged some woman like 4 times for a rush job to replace a carpet. But it sounded like he was blackmailing her, and maybe she had killed someone. So we got her name, and we're curious to see if we can find out if she actually murdered someone. Whether any of these side cases, we're calling them, whether any of these extra issues are going to be talked about at the end, we don't know, but we're enjoying our time in this town. All right, so Nicola had a comment here. I read that as where he lived after his wife died. Okay, so when I was rereading it, I was saying where he lived before. Let's see. Albright lived with his mother. He'd moved there a year ago. Before that, he lived at a flat at the boarding house. We know he moved in with his mother after the wife died, and we know he didn't get any money from his wife, so there's not really a financial motive. All right, so where did we go last week? Let's take a look at today's reply and see. All right, we sent Imogen to the doctor of Albright's wife to see if he thought her death was suspicious. We sent the vicar to Pape, the fly fisherman's house. B5. Is that even on our map? I guess it is. Is it? I don't think I placed stickers on our map, but I'm not sure. We don't even have any bees, do we? So it's off the map at B5. Walk are we? No. B5. Okay, so I neglected to put markers. It's not off the map. It's right there. So, okay. So the vicar went to B5 to see about the fly fisherman. Imogen went to the doctor at B69. I feel like my eyesight's getting worse this last couple of weeks. But that's okay. Okay, there's our B69. And then Cecily actually continued on our actual case, and she went to off the map to F20, which is down here off the map somewhere in Fairbarrow. And we thought, well, if there's any issue, we think we know enough to answer all these questions. But we thought, well, if there's any issue that the courts would want to know, that we'd want to wrap up to make sure, it's that Kathleen Carwood, our murderer, doesn't have an accomplice in one of her little coven of researchers. So the other one we know is Janet Rosso. So we sent Cecily, who's good at picking up people when they're lying. We sent her to talk to Janet. And so it's going to be curious what Janet says. Is Janet going to admit that something's going on? Is she going to have an alibi? We'll see. All right, so there we have it. Let's open it up and get started. All right, our first reply is from Cecily, who went to visit Janet. This is our only one on our main case here. Let's see what Cecily says. F20 Janet Rosso. Dearest Jessie, I knocked on the front door of Janet Rosso's home at dinner time when I thought it most likely she'd be at home. It swung open and found myself under her impatient glare. You, she grumbled. I suppose I've no choice to get this over with, but I'll have to eat while we talk. I followed her in and watched her as she assembled a sandwich of wheat bread and graying ham. I don't know anything about Albright, she insisted. I heard a rumor that our dig director, Dr. Carwood, used to sing with him in a choir, but she wasn't close with him. I would know. She and I have been best friends since school. We joined the dig at the same time and have practically lived together since. Wink, wink. She took a bite and chewed viciously. It's not easy being a woman scientist. We have to prove ourselves at every turn, and people ask such unfair questions. She glared at me as she said it. On the wall hung a sun-splashed photograph of Russo and Dr. Carwood, dressed in dig overalls. They stood before a plywood shooting target, and both sported pistols. She saw me taking it in and said, there's a gun range behind the dig at an old house at the end of the lane. We used to practice together. Which of you was the better shot? I asked. Kathleen, she said with great admiration in her voice. I'm an awful shot. Kathleen was always better at just about everything. Rupert Albright was hit by a bullet, I said, by someone who was no doubt an excellent marksman. Russo's face went red. Has Mr. Went, your security guard, returned to work yet? I asked. We've already found his body. But maybe we don't want to let her know that. Russo, now fuming, dropped her unfinished sandwich into the bin. I have to go. I'm expected back at the dig. I've always been a student of human nature. Reflecting on this short conversation with Janet Russo, I find myself convinced that her anger is not born of any guilt in her own actions. Rather, she has the manner of one protecting a person she cares for. Okay, so, yeah, just 100% confirming what we know. Other ways to point to places, like there were lots of places pointing to the shooting range. We found it early. And then this is laying it on a little thick that Janet is not the shooter, but Kathleen is. And Cecily is using her observations by sending Cecily here, the keen observer of human nature. We get this little bonus information that Cecily has figured out that Janet Rosso is not guilty. She's just feeling very protective. So there we go. The channel says an interesting question was, Cecily thinks she's innocent, but in that case, who attacked the vicar? I do believe it's most likely that it was Kathleen herself. That Janet probably called Kathleen and told her that the vicar was headed up towards Went, and Kathleen, who lives near the vicar, if you'll remember, like the vicar is here, and I believe Kathleen Carwood lives in one of these houses here, and Kathleen did drive up, and we know that Kathleen drove up and took the Mr. Went away. We found that description of that episode, so I think it's most likely that she went up, hit our vicar, and drove away the Kathleen. Yeah. All right, so nothing new here, just more confirmation. Okay, now here's Imogen, who we sent to the doctor to see if Albright's wife's death is suspicious. Dear Jessie, I was wondering when you'd arrive, said morose-looking Dr. Lambshaw as I took a seat in his office, Wooster in my lap. When I read the paper paper's article about Rupert, I knew it would only be a matter of time before people developed a renewed interest in the sad story of Mr. and Mrs. Albright. Do you have a bit of time to talk it through? I asked. Yes, of course. Can I offer you some tea? I agreed. As he poured, he continued. When I was at the library yesterday, I saw Cecily Miller's flyer about your mystery book club. I was even thinking of joining. I asked the ladies at the desk about it, and they told me you'd been investigating Albright's death, and here you are. And here I am. Was Rupert a patient of yours? Oh, no, but his wife, Alice Albright, was, he sighed. Well, her maiden name was Crawford. The whole Crawford clan, a line of farmers whose roots go back many generations, have relied on me. I was there when Alice was born, and before that her elder brother, Theodore. I watched them grow. Theodore into a prototypical English farmer, tall and strong and mostly silent but confident. Alice was more a portrait of weakness. She had always had awful asthma growing up, poor thing, had a hard time fitting in. I don't know how she met Albright. He was at least a decade older, but meet they did, and before anyone could understand it, she married him. What was their marriage like? He sipped at his tea and winced. Can I be frank with you, Imogen? Of course. Well, he abused her, both physically and emotionally. Twice she came in for her prescriptions, and I noticed terrible bruises on her arms and neck. During that time, she'd grown even more reserved and quiet than before. I offered both times to help if she'd let me, but she declined. The stress damaged her health. In 42, she contracted tuberculosis, and with her general respiratory challenges, it wasn't long before it claimed her life. She died in hospital. Rupert Albright wasn't even there when it happened. The sod. I'd never seen Dr. Lambshoe angry until that moment. It was quite shocking. Rupert did not kill his wife, he said, not directly. But, in my opinion, he deserved what happened to him. His killer did that poor girl a tiny stroke of justice. Lady Imogen Bickford Smithy. Okay, so this seems to wrap up this case pretty cleanly. He reminds us, first of all, he's been caring for her since she was born. She seems to have died from tuberculosis complication from her asthma, her long-standing asthma. And not only that, but he reminds us she actually died in the hospital under care. It sounds like she probably spent a not trivial amount of time in the hospital before she died. So, and he was already suspicious of Albright, who seems to have been abusing her. So if there was any chance that Albright was connected directly to her death, he wouldn't have hesitated to follow up on it. So that's it. We've wrapped up this little side case, although I'm sort of curious to visit Theodore just to talk to him, the brother, but it seems like this wraps it up. Wraps up one more of our side cases. And the doctor thinks that a little justice was served with Albright getting killed. But wow, this is the first time we've gotten many hints that he's not a good guy. But now we have confirmation here. He actually abused her. That seems like that might be relevant to know. All right. Let's see our last reply from the vicar. Looks like a short one. Vicar's report. How did he title this report? On They've Moved. The Pape residence would be more accurately called the former Pape residence. Mr. Pape and his wife had recently moved, and their house in Bockerley had yet to be sold. I learned all of this from the Pape's neighbor, a Mrs. Cupp, as she leaned over the hedge and shouted my way. "You'll not talk to them," she said. Moved away, they did, on to Brighton. Miss Pape has a sister there, and Mr. Pape has some cousins, if I remember. What were you hoping to ask 'em? Well, some friends and I are looking into the death of a Netherwellow man named Rupert Albright. Mrs. Cupp screwed up her lips. Never heard of him. Well, his death was in the paper, I explained, along with a story about some dead and dried birds that were found in a box near the railroad tracks. In asking about that, my friends and I heard Mr. Pape's name. She considered this for a moment, and then said, well, Mr. Pape's had a lot of dried birds. Kept them in boxes piled in his study. He was a fly fisherman. Told me he needed bright feathers of specific birds to tie his flies. She shook her head. Never understood it myself. You tell me, how can a fish tell the difference between a feather from a finch and some strange parrot? I couldn't. Could you? I suppose not, I said. Do you have any reason to think the Papes were connected to Rupert Albright? She shrugged. Like I said, I never heard of them. Mr. and Mrs. Papes weren't terribly social, aside from Mr. Pape's fishing friends. Was Albright a fishing person? Not that I've heard, I said. Well, then I doubt they're connected at all, she said. All right, so this is the game telling us they're not related, but still, we are interested. So, the only thing she's pointed to is fishing friends for this guy. But he's moved, which comports with the bird story, because it's time to reread this bird story and see what we've got here. Okay, let's read it. Charles Dill of Bockerley, foreman of a crew performing line maintenance for the railroad, found a box south of the Trestle Cross Bridge on the east side of the tracks, 5 feet from the gradestones, at a break in the trees when you can see Rabowney castles. He untied a cord around the box, dumped it out, and was horrified to find 2 mummified songbirds wrapped in paper. But here's the part about him moving that makes sense. The box was a Jolly Run Company shipping box, hand-labeled kitchen. The box contained 2 small packages of newspaper wrapping. The paper was later determined to be from a 1952 issue of the Bockerley Chronicle. One paper was around a yellow canary, the other contained a bright green parakeet. Both bodies were bone dry, but with their brilliantly colored feathers intact. Looked almost alive, said Dill. Newspapers had no mailing address attached, except a star and letter B on the masthead, indicating they had been delivered on a Bockerley Village route. 2 packages were wrapped in a tea towel with embroidery of a pig in one corner and the numerals 49 on the other. It's a mystery for sure, said Dill, but it's given me and the boys down at Pints something to talk about. All right, so it seems clear now that these are birds owned by Mr. Pape, packed for moving, and no doubt lost on the delivery, on the moving truck, it sounds like. Maybe if we wanted to verify that, if we visited Jolly Run, they might tell us that a box was lost, never made it to Pape's new house. We don't know what this pig is about, or number 49. The Pape's house that we went to just now was B5, so it wasn't, 49 is not the address of the new house, of the old house, but it could be the address of the new house, or it could just be, what does he say? He says she's got some family. Maybe it has to do with the other family. Let's see. They weren't social. Sister there. So to Brighton is where they went. We might look at whether, let's see, where is Brighton versus where they live. Brighton is down south. Okay, and they live here at B5. So you might imagine if the moving truck came and picked him up and was driving his stuff to his new house. Does that make sense? Did it fall off the train? Is that what happened? Fell off near the train, near the tracks. Trestle Cross Bridge. Okay. Well, this is like practice. We're getting practice being detectives. So there's Trestle Cross Bridge. So here's where the package was found. So I think what we've got here is that the Papes packed up their birds, put them on a train or carried them on a train with themselves, and it flew off the train, it fell off the train where it was found. Does that make sense to everyone? What do you think? Roberto says, newspaper says they recently moved, but the newspaper wrapping is 3 years old. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I still think this is the likely scenario. So, but then, if it's Jolly Run shipping thing, where's our Jolly Run advertisement? Jolly Run Freight Yard at E16. There's Jolly Run Freight Yard is actually here. So I'm not sure how that matches with them having a box from Jolly Run. But no matter how you look at it, these birds are not an important mystery, right? Like, nothing's going on, no crime has been committed, just a lost thing. And Tina says, yes, the newspaper may be old, but maybe they kept old papers for wrapping things. Rob says, the birds are likely old and were wrapped up years ago, not for the move. Okay. So I think we've got this mystery solved. The only little thing, if you wanted to be a perfectionist, you could say, well, it would be nice to know what the embroidery of the tea towel with the pig and the numerals 49 mean. The best, I'd say the only other place really to go would be Jolly Run Freight Yard to see if any claim was filed against them for losing a box of birds, but otherwise totally unrelated. So probably done with that one. All right, so now we've got the time to let me just see here. Nicola doesn't agree. The box here said kitchen, but Pape kept the birds in his study, so may not be the same person. Oh, surely it's the same person. Emmy says, I think the location was to get us to look nearby. Article mentions gravestones, pulls you into the main stage. The article mentions gravestones, does it? Well, whether it's meant to pull us into the main case or not, it feels like I wouldn't object to tracking down Jolly Run and all that stuff, but let's decide now where we want to go. All right, so what's left? All right, clearly we should go to the RAF. We're not ending this case without visiting the RAF. Finally, it's a good time. Roberto says, let's go to the carpet lady and see if we can catch her crime. Okay, let's do that. Let's go to the carpet lady. Let's go to the RAF. Carpet lady was Juliet something. And then let's go to one of the RAF locations. So the RAF is not just an interesting place, but there was this article about, let's see. There's a broadcast interference from the RAF. George Sable from Sable Drugstore was one of the affected. The exact same time of the interference, he heard a slow-moving airplane flying circles over Cryerton Royal Air Force Field, just north of Netherwell. I've heard rumors they're trying out some classified radar equipment. So this is probably just to distract us from our case, since Albright is doing some stuff and looking up and all over. But we know that's not true, but we're still curious about the RAF. All right, so Carpet Lady, RAF, and then we've got one open lead we could visit. All right, so Debbie says RAF and Carpet Lady, not really interested in the dead birds anymore. All right, so where would you like to go with the RAF? Let's see our directory. It feels like there were a couple places at the RAF that were interesting. And we also have some informants still. All right, let's see. What have we got? Where is there no entry here for the RAF, Royal Air Force Base? Cryerton Field, is that what it is? It's all listed under Cryerton. There it is. Okay. Cryerton Field, admin office, aircraft hangars, barracks, medical clinic, records office. All right, where would you like to go? Probably makes sense to go right to the admin office, don't you think? We don't know what records to pull. If we go to the records office, we'll be asking about Albright, and they'll be like, we don't know any Albright. And me says, any of the other contacts worth visiting? Did we ever find the third woman? No, we never did find the third woman. That is a little bit troubling, although we don't think she's involved. In fact, do we know there's a third woman in the photo, but I can't remember if she's in the picture now. Let's decide where you want to go to the Cryerton Field. Should we just go to the admin office, knock on the door, talk to someone in charge? The only other place we could go is we could go to the barracks to talk to the more lower level down people. But, I mean, none of these people are going to tell us anything. And then who to send? Well, we should send Cecily to the woman, because the woman's going to she's going to lie, right? So we need Cecily, who's good at picking up on lies. The vicar is useless to send to this woman, so we don't want to send him. And Imogen, it feels like Imogen might not be the right person. She's too pushy. I think Cecily is the one to get in there, be unassuming, and detect a lie. So let's send let's send Cecily to the woman. The woman is Juliet Porter. She's the one who came here's the paragraph about her coming into the carpet store. So we're going to send Cecily to B61. Let's just put that in the books right here. There's no way we're not doing that. Okay, so Cecily is going to B61, which is Juliet Porter. Carpet lady. Carpet stain lady. Okay. Now, probably it makes sense to send Imogen to the RAF. She might be able to talk her way in. Yeah, okay. So let's send Imogen to the RAF base. Now, where on the base do you want to send her? Do you want to send her to I think it's got to be either the admin office. We don't know anyone who works there, so records office is not the place to go. We're going to walk in there and they'll be like, okay, I can't give you any information, but if I could, who do you want to see? And we're like, Albright. And they're like, he doesn't even have anything to do with us. So shall we just send her into the admin office, or do you want her to waltz right into the barracks with the enlisted men and see what she can find out? ME says, oh, the vicar could have a legitimate reason to visit the base, doing God's work for the men. Yeah. All right. You could convince me to send the vicar. What's our third place, I guess? When we find our third place, we'll know who to send. Where's our third place? We've tied up all the loose ends. It's only that third woman that we haven't really tracked down if we can, but I'm not sure. Doesn't feel like that third woman is going to be finding. Oh, contacts. That's a good question. What other informants are left? Okay, good question. All right. So, we went to the records office just now. We haven't yet been to the library stacks. We haven't been to the historical society. We haven't been to Cecily's reporter friend with gossip. So we could send Imogen we could send Imogen to the Historical Society or the library stacks. Either one might be good. All right, let's send one of them here. So we're going to send one to the RAF and one of them to one of these. What's it going to be? Okay. Rob says, better to send the vicar instead of woman, maybe to the barracks to pick up some gossip. Okay, I like the idea now of going to the barracks, because the barracks someone may have seen something near Borley Wood, which is right nearby. So I don't mind the idea of going to the barracks. If we're going to the barracks, well, it could be anyone then. We could send either one. Okay. And then, we almost forgot about the two poachers. The poachers on the scene that the detective was initially very hot on. It feels like we would be remiss in not visiting them. So maybe we should be visiting one of our poachers. And then the chat was talking more about the third woman is still waltzing around somewhere. I think we need to visit one or both of the poachers. If we wrap up this case without having talked to the one that the detective really thought, even though we know he didn't do it, he could have witnessed something. So shall we have one of them visit one of the poachers? Let's see, we learned about the poacher very early on. What's his name? James Grossor. James Grossor is our poacher. Let me just look him up. Don't you think we need to go visit James Grossor? C25. C25. And then we got a second one, which was Maddox. So Grossler, C25, Marcus Lennox is C26. Oh, they live right next to each other. That's interesting. All right. So, let's send the vicar to the RAF. And let's send Imogen to one of the I'm going to send the vicar to the RAF and Imogen to the poacher. Although the RAF boys might like to see Imogen. You want to split them up, huh? You want to send two. You want to send both to the RAF base and then both to the poachers? Is that what you guys want? Maybe send both to the base to different locations. And then both to the poachers. Well, that's kind of a fun idea. All right. Let's send two to the RAF base, but then you know we have to spend another time visiting those poachers. Because we cannot end this case without going to the poachers. So we're going to send... is it wise to do both? All right, let's try it just for fun. We haven't done it before. Debbie says, I don't really see the need to visit the poachers. We know they're not involved. We have to visit the poachers. This is like cleaning up after your crime scene. You can't very well not visit the prime suspect from the detectives who could be a witness. That would be hard to explain in court. All right, let's send the vicar to the admin office of the RAF. We'll try it. We'll try it this time. We'll try going to the similar place. It's kind of fun to have them both going to the similar place as partners. And the vicar's, he's not really safe to travel alone. So, all right, let's send Imogen to the barracks to talk with the men. That's C3. And then we're going to send the vicar to the admin office at C1. What do you think about that? All right, let's do it just for fun. So this is our RAF turn. And then we'll be done with the RAF. It's a little, I mean, it's not the smartest thing because we could go to one of the RAFs and they're like, talk to the records department. And here we are spending both of our turns. All right, let's just do it. We're not in a rush. We'll spend more turns. All right, so here we are. We're going to make our move here. We're going to stretch this game out for another month. Okay, Cecily's going to B61. That's Juliet Porter. Imogen is going to the barracks to talk to the men for gossip, and the vicar is going to the admin to get him to cough up some official information. Emmy wants to reverse that order. You want me to reverse the order of who I send where? You want the vicar to the barracks and the Imogen to admin? I like the idea of I like it this way. I like Imogen going to the barracks. Some guy may want to flirt with her, whereas the admin may be very religious. Imogen is better with people in authority. Imogen is better with the banking people that she could intimidate. I don't think she's going to be able to intimidate the admin of the base so easily with her dog. All right, but let's do it this way anyway. We're going to do it my way. Maybe it'll be more entertaining. All right, here we go. All right, there you have it. We've now officially run out of the 3 sheets of their anticipated turns. That's it. They don't anticipate you taking more than 3 pages. And Tina says, I imagine someone at the company is saying, again, these ones still haven't found the solution. We're bleeding stamps here. Yes, but we are doing this in the name of science to understand this case. We played our first 2 cases fairly efficiently. Are they making a loss? So this game costs $40, including shipping, and then all the letters included. So each letter costs them another 40 cents. So if you take an extra 10 turns, you're costing them an extra $4 of the 40. However, keep in mind, we also posted a review. I'll post another review of this game, quite a glowing review, spoiler alert, which will get them some more customers. I've already bought 1 extra copy for my mother as a gift. And I will be buying more copies of this as gifts. Like, this is the game I was hoping these play-by-mail games would be. And I think this makes a great gift. So we're going to get them that money back. Those turns we're spending, those extra $4 from 10 extra turns, they'll come back to them. If you want to do them a favor, if you want to do something nice for them or any other company of games we play, if you're feeling guilty that you're playing on someone else's dime, I purchased this game myself, you can do something that would be much better than ever buying this game for them. Go leave a review somewhere of their game. We live in a world where people are buying advertising. It's ridiculous wastes of money, and it's very hard in this world we're in to get out the word when you have a genuinely good product. So you want to do something nice, leave a review somewhere, Facebook, some social media, on their website, recommending the game to people. I think that would be better than even buying a copy. Roberta says, do they know we're playing online? Yes, I have spoken. There's a human being at the end of the Murders by Mail emails, Jason, and he's been sending me the PDF replies when I ask for them if we don't think the letter gets here in time. So there is a real person. We did report on bug about Went. We still haven't found the notice, the announcement of Went. Maybe when we get to the newspaper, we're going to hear it. The newspaper is one of our informants. When we submitted our bug report, that got reported to the person who writes the game, and they actually modified it a bit so that the bug we found won't happen again. So there are real people behind this company. All right, that'll end it for here. I will see you next Sunday for the next turn, the RAF turn. Still got a couple more leads. I think we got a couple more weeks to go. All right, and then on the channel coming up, if you look behind me here, you will see I just got in the mail the mug book from eBay. This is a very, very rare 1984 game, clearly inspired by Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So I'll be looking through that this week on the channel. I'll either do it live or record it. And probably we'll schedule a playthrough of it. Jonathan Warner was actually suggesting that might be a good game to play if it's short during a Sunday if we don't get one of these replies in time. And then next to that is Subterra 2, which Greg and I are going to be getting together today to play. and review at some point soon. And then next to that is a sort of Dungeons and Dragons 3-part escape room, Bedlam Neverwinter, which we will also, Greg and I will also be playing, I think, and reviewing. There you have it. I'll see you next week, or before then, if you join me for another playthrough. I forgot to mention that last week we played another Cryptic Killers game, about a 5-6 hour game, which was quite good. We played two of them now. There are about 5 or 6 of them out. They're quite good. I'm going to play one more and then do a review of those. Check those out if you're interested in the document dump cold case games. I'll see you next week.